Ladies and gentlemen, it is time, TBR, which stands for to be read. These are the 12 books that I'm going to be reading for 2025. Originally there was 11, but you can't have 11. It's got to be an even number, so. My name is Grant. This is Grant Loves Books. Please like and subscribe. Would you please? I would appreciate it very much. The books that I'm going to read for 2025, and I've organized them so that we're going to go around the world nicely. So let's start right here in happy little Canada. The Book of Eve by Constance Beresford Howe. The Book of Eve was first published with little fanfare in 1973. Oh well. Since then, millions of readers have met and been enthralled with Ava, the spunky 65-year-old, spunky, who decides one day to walk out of her soul-destroying marriage and make it on her own. In a basement room, in a downtown boarding house, she finds independence, and with a crazy, exuberant Hungarian, half her age, she finds love. Man, the Hungarians are all over the place in literature. I've never really been able to figure it out. I wonder if the Hungarians leap out at me because I used to live there. I don't think you get so much national representation in literature of other nationalities. You know, every once in a while you'll get an Egyptian. Periodically you'll get Argentinian. But often the Hungarians are all over the place. And I always wondered about this, like why? Why is it that certain authors always go for the Hungarian? I guess they had Hungarian friends, plain and simple. Constance Beresford Howe was born in Montreal in 1922. 22, and this was published in 73. Good God. She was educated at McGill and Brown universities, after which she joined the staff of the English department at McGill. That's the famous, big, prestigious university in Montreal. Her short stories have been published in Canada and the United States. La-di-da. But she's more widely celebrated for her novels, which include The Unreasoning Heart in 1947, okay, The Book of Eve, 1973. Wait a minute, that's a 25-year hiatus between novels. Well, it better be good. It's certainly short. 190 pages. I always, when I compile these lists, I always forget to include a Canadian. So there we go. There's my token Canadian on the list. Now we're going to go to America. Hello, America. Got your fancy new president? Just joking. He knows what he's doing. He's already been president once before. Really got quite a lot of Americans on the list this year. I don't know why. Just a particular mood, I suppose. The Bridge of San Luis Rey by Thornton Wilder. Look at that handsome devil. Not me. Thornton Wilder, 1897 to 1975, is an accomplished novelist and playwright whose works exploring the connection between the commonplace and the cosmic dimensions of human experience. Do I have cosmic dimensions in my human experience? No, Grant. Continue to be read and produced around the world. I've read this once before. This is going to be a reread. It's a brilliant book. It's so short. The shorter a novel is, the sharper it had better be. Like a lot of short novels, you know, like they don't have the room to be excessive, whether it's in the description or the characterization. Short novels have to be very succinct. But sometimes short novels are just mind-bending because you cannot believe how much the author achieves in such a short amount of time. And this is absolutely one of those books. Winesburg, Ohio by Sherwood Anderson. Yeah, I've been meaning to read this one again. Winesburg, Ohio. Written when Anderson was 40, was the book in which he achieved the freshness and rightness of an author who, for the first time, is touching his highest mark. Love this book. Yeah, so that's another reread. Whoa, it looks like all three of the American books are going to be rereads. A Walk on the Wild Side by Nelson Algren. This was sent to me by one of my patrons on Patreon, John Rollins. Hey, John, thanks a lot for sending me this and all of the other books you sent me. I read this one. Where did I read it? It was in Budapest, and for a short while I was a member at a library, the Sabo Ervin Könyvtár, close to Calvin Ter. Like at one point, their literature section was all of the books mixed together. I understand recently they've separated the English books, so it's a lot more easy to navigate. Prostitutes, bootleggers, and hustlers of Perdido Street in the old French quarter of New Orleans, 1930s. Yeah, Nelson Algren, he was a funny character too. Nelson Algren had a bit of a hard life, but I think he wrote 2 great books, which is 2 more than most people. So, looking forward to reading this one again. Thanks again, James. Not James, John Rollins. From America, where do we go next? To Brazil. The posthumous memoirs of Brás Cubas, Machado de Assis. A lot of people have reviewed this book. Everybody, like universally, just loves this book. I've read another de Assis in the past, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. I don't often get to read any literature from Brazil, so this is something wonderful for me. From Brazil, let's go. Oh, that's not a real country. David Malouf, Remembering Babylon. David Malouf is the author of 7 novels and 5 volumes of poetry. His most recent novel, The Great World, was awarded both the prestigious Commonwealth Prize and the Prix Féminin Étranger. Remembering Babylon was shortlisted for the Booker Prize. In this rich and compelling novel, written in language of astonishing poise and resonance, one of Australia's greatest living writers gives an immensely powerful vision of human differences and eternal divisions. In the mid-1940s, a 13-year-old British cabin boy, Jemmy Fairley, is cast ashore in the far north of Australia and taken in by Aborigines. 16 years later, he moves back into the world of Europeans among hopeful yet terrified settlers who are staking out their small patch of home in an alien place. To them, Jemmy stands as a different kind of a challenge. He is a force that at once fascinates and repels. My Australian cousins on the list this year rarely read anything from Australia. Very, very rarely. Where do we go after Australia? Of course, we go up north to Japan. This is an old one. This might be the oldest one. Written centuries before the time of Shakespeare and even Chaucer, The Tale of Genji marks the birth of the novel, and after more than a millennium, this seminal work continues to enchant readers throughout the world. Lady Murasaki Shikibu, born in the year 978. Good God, 1,000 years ago. And she wrote this. So I'm going to read that. Bit of a strange one from Japan this year, but yeah, why not? Japan to Italy. 2 Women by Alberto Moravia. Last year, I had a book by Moravia on my TBR list. It was 1934, and I loved reading that book, even though it was a little bit boring, but it was still a good book. This one, I think, is going to be much more exciting, not in a particularly happy way. 2 Women tells the effect of war on the lives of ordinary people. On Cesira, the prosperous widow shopkeeper, and her beloved 17-year-old daughter, Rosetta. In a series of simply and swiftly narrated scenes up in the mountains to the south of Rome and on the journey back to the capital, Moravia tells, through the mouth of the mother, of the horrifying hardships inflicted by war. Hunger, fear, disillusionment, and despair. His characters are cast into the tempestuous sea of war, like jetsam, and forced to struggle for existence among strangers, against Germans and Allies alike. Goodness gracious. This is going to be a heavy one. Bit of a shame I've got this old copy, but I guess it will be good enough. 340 pages. Alberto Moravia was born in Rome in 1907, the son of an architect. Between the ages of 9 and 20, he suffered from continual ill health. He learned French, German, and English as a child. My oh my. And in 1925, at the time of writing his first novel, was foreign correspondent in London, Paris, and elsewhere for La Stampa and La Gazzetta del Popolo of Turin. My goodness, what amazing lives people used to lead. They still lead amazing lives, Grant. No, they don't. Not really. Wonderful to have Moravia representing Italy again this year. There's other Italian writers. Yeah, I know, but I think Moravia is my favorite from Italy. Oh, what about Calvino? Yeah, okay, all right. Now, we go up to the United Kingdom, the Book of Ebenezer LePage, because I'm sick and tired of looking at the Book of Ebenezer LePage saying, when am I going to get around to reading that? Very close to 500 pages, my goodness. Well, I guess this is going to be a fun one. I know I've talked about this one several times in the past when I was doing a shelf tour and when I got this, as I think I got it for a Christmas present one year. I think this is one of those great books that unfortunately gets ignored because it's just fallen out of favor, and hopefully it will be so good that I can resuscitate some of its former prestige. That's what my channel's all about, is trying to bring back, not bring back, just to highlight some great books that you're not going to find them on the shelves very commonly. Even in a library, I think some of these books very hard to come by. I've had to hunt for all of these books, and god damn it, my life is richer because of it. Well, over to Ireland, to Dublin. Patrick McCabe, The Dead School. What did I read by Patrick McCabe? I read the famous one, The Butcher Boy, and I read that when I was in Ottawa. And I consider my years in Ottawa to be almost like I really was not a very mature person in my Ottawa years. Oh well, I'll probably look back in 20 years and say, my New Westminster years were not very mature either. That's life, you know, you live and you grow and you hopefully become a little bit wiser with age. Malachi Dudgeon has escaped the misery and madness of his childhood home and landed a job in the most famous school in Dublin. The headmaster, Raphael Bell, has overcome his own tragedies to forge a model career. But when Malachi Dudgeon and Raphael Bell meet, they become inextricably engaged in a macabre relationship which proves fatal to their fortunes and their sanity. Goodness. The Dead School by Patrick McCabe, author of The Butcher Boy. Butcher Boy, great novel. I recall it being violent and black and, you know, the work of a disturbed mind. And I'm hoping this is exactly the same. Well, my life is so dull, I've got to get my depravity from alternative sources because no depravity here. And where do we go from the United Kingdom? Of course, we're going to stop by France. The place I do love, even though I think I have never been there properly. Honoré de Balzac, The Human Comedy. Now this is a bit of a funny one because Balzac wrote a series of 80 or 90 novels, short stories. That entire collection, that oeuvre is called The Human Comedy. But this book of short stories is also called The Human Comedy. And that's what it is. It is a book of short stories. What are the short stories, Grant? Why don't you read out the titles to us? Okay. Fancino Kane. Maybe I should have looked at the titles before I started reading. Adieu. Zed Marcus. Gobseck. The Duchess de Langeais. In Balzac, every living soul is a weapon loaded to the very muzzle with will. Wow, strange quote from Charles Baudelaire. Characters from every corner of society in all walks of life, lords and ladies, businessmen and military men, poor clerks, unforgiving moneylenders, aspiring politicians, artists, actresses, swindlers, misers, parasites, sexual adventurers, crackpots, and more, move through the pages of The Human Comedy, Balzac's multi-volume magnum opus, an interlinked chronicle of modernity in all of its splendor and squalor. Balzac. Gotta read Balzac every year. I really want to push my way through The Human Comedy as much as I can while I'm alive. I know I'm planning to live for quite a lot longer, but it's just the human tragedy is so massive that you look at it and think, I hope I will live long enough to read all of this. I do anyway, because I'm one of those types. What, the lunatic type? Well, some might call it that. And finally, the last one, number 12. We're staying in France. My other favorite French writer, Émile Zola, L'Assommoir. It's a shame I've got this shitty old beat-up copy. Wow, another big one from Zola. 420 pages. I wanted to depict the inevitable downfall of a working-class family in the polluted atmosphere of our urban areas, wrote Zola of L'Assommoir, 1877, which some critics rate as the greatest of his Rougon Macquart novels. In the result, the book triumphantly surmounts the author's moral and social intentions to become, perhaps, the first classical tragedy of working-class people living in the slums of the city Paris. Very nice. Vividly, without romantic illusions, Zola uses the coarse argot of the back streets to plot the descent of the easygoing Gervais through idleness, drunkenness, promiscuity, filth, and starvation to the grave. The effect is at once humorous and pathetic. Idleness, drunkenness, promiscuity, filth, and starvation. Well, everything except for the starvation sounds very familiar to me. Looking forward to this one. This is going to be my third year reading Zola. First year was The Masterpiece, last year was Germinal, and L'Assommoir will be 2025. And that is the 2025 TBR list. I hope that's exciting for you, and maybe you will go out and find one of these books that are not very easy to find and read one of them along with me this year, so that way you could let me know what you think. If I were recommending a book to you that was sort of easy and not maybe too hard to find or too expensive, I guess I would say that Winesburg, Ohio would be the one that would be most easily read if you're not someone like me who reads, a ridiculous amount of books every year. Which one am I looking forward to the most? I love the French ones. This Irish one by Patrick McCabe, I'm really looking forward to that one because I think it's going to be something dirty. All of them, they're all great. Any that I'm not looking forward to? Maybe the Australian one, because I don't really know anything about the Australian Aborigine situation. That's really quite a mystery for me, but maybe it will teach me something. Hopefully it will give me a bit of a broader perspective because I don't really know anything about it. I would like to say that perhaps it is similar to our own situation in Canada with our Indigenous population, but I really don't know how accurate that is, and I don't want people to be wagging their fingers at me and saying it's not in any way similar. Okay, I don't know. Don't crucify me. Thank you very much for watching. I guess the video is long enough. I hope that was exciting for you, and I hope that 2025 is going to be a wonderful year for you and your family and just everyone, and we're all going to be happy people in 2025 and beyond. The world is getting better. People are becoming nicer, more friendly, more altruistic. We're solving all of the environmental crises. One day we're going to be living in paradise. We might all be hooked up to the big internet at that point and living in those little pods, but at least we'll be happy, right? Thanks for watching. Have a great 2025. I know that I will with these amazing books. Take care. So if you would please like and subscribe, and if your parents and people you work with have Gmail accounts, maybe you could just jump on their computer, go to their Gmail, quickly go to YouTube and click subscribe. They'll probably benefit about that. I'm talking about some intellectual stuff here. The real surprise, to me anyway, was not really what I did, but how I felt afterwards. Okay, one more. Shocked, of course, but not guilty. Ay. There's just something particularly Hungarian about doing things differently, really for the sake of it. Like one of the things, okay, it's a stupid story. One of the things that really annoyed me is that, how our calendars are, the top row are the days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and the horizontal row are the weeks, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Hungarians have flipped that on the side so that the top row is, how does it work? On the horizontal side, that would be the days of the week. So it would be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So let's say Monday started on the 1st of the month. So the top row would be 1, 8, 15, 23, 30. And that would be the Mondays on the top, and then the Tuesdays. And I said, why, you lunatics, is this a better system? Because that way you could see all the Mondays. I said, you could see the Mondays exactly the same with a standard calendar. Why do you maniacs have to switch the calendar to the other side? Oh, some people like it like that. It's just, Hungarians just have to go out of their way to be shit disturbers, really. Hungarians, it's true.